matchup. Chris Paul plays him really physical. Chris Paul takes it very seriously. Chris Paul makes it very difficult for Steph Curry. What do you expect from tonight?
Well, the unique thing for a team dynamic is Chris Paul and Steph are two all-NBA guards going at it, and you get a chance to enjoy, the competition. But the thing that makes the Golden State Warriors a step better is that on the other end, Klay Thompson can actually guard CP3. Mm-hmm. And it puts Steph in a position now on different matchups to be able to rest on defense.
Hard to rest when you're covering J.J. Redick.
He won't do that. He would stand him next to Bamute. You stand him next to who they playing at the 3 because you know that they're not going to consistently go to him and get him the ball. And with that being said, Chris Paul has a dual challenge because a few years ago, I remember they were playing against OKC and Durant got hot. And late in the game, who was guarding him? Chris Paul, guarding a 6'11" guy. So it'll be interesting to see late in the game because the Clippers are going to have their 4 starters on the floor other than their small forward. The catch is, who does Jamal Crawford then replace?
Can't put him on KD.
And that becomes the matchup you try to exploit for the Golden State Warriors. Who's guarding Klay, who's guarding KD, and or who's guarding Draymond? So that's going to be the game within the game that I want people to pay attention to because we know the Warriors' 4 starters that's going to be in the game also. Mm-hmm. Now, who's the 5th guy? Is it going to be Iguodala? Is it going to be Sean Livingston?
Not going to be Zaza.
So those are the things that you look forward to. But it's a terrific matchup, and it really is going to mean a lot to the Clippers to compete and, more importantly, win.
Especially on their home floor. And then you look at these matchups, and you look at the one thing, if you want to poke holes in the Warriors, which we started to do earlier in the season, we've done a lot less of moving forward because they're plugging those holes, is physicality, rebounding, and you look at Blake and DeAndre, and you say if they just put a little bit more effort into offensive rebounding, they can make this very difficult for the Warriors.
Well, you can poke holes into any team. That's why no squad has gone undefeated in the regular season. And so the greatest champions and players in this history of the game didn't win the championship every year, even Bill Russell. So why is that? Each team has strengths and weaknesses. And if you're going to beat the Warriors, 2 things you have to do that aren't pretty. Besides guard the 3. I mean, you have to guard the 3. I mean, that's a foregone conclusion. But 2 things that really are paramount other than that is, one, you got to attack the paint. Layups, dunks, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, and the perimeter players also. You can't just be shooting either all mid-range shots or 3-point shots. You have to attack the basket. Here's why. You got to try to get them in foul trouble. If you can get 2 or 3 on KD early or Draymond Green early, that changed the whole dynamic of the game. The entire dynamic. The more Zaza, the more JaVale McGee that you're able to get, that bodes well for his team's opportunity. And when you have 2 all-stars up front, and I'm saying that because I know DeAndre is going to be one for the first time this year, and the Clippers, you have to pound them in the submission in the paint, try to get them in foul trouble, because if you're not able to do that and you allow Draymond Green and Kevin Durant at 6'7" and Slider Bill playing up front, then it's going to make your night tough on the other end.
I think to that end, you will see some strength on strength. Blake Griffin getting the ball in the post position, looking for offenses to get it to Blake on Draymond to see if they can get some fouls on him early.
You have to. A talented player, 19 and 10, and basically 4 or 5 assists for his career. Is proven to be one of the most athletic players that the game has seen, and really productive and aggressive when he wants to be. So that has to be something that they take advantage of.
How long until Blake Griffin and Draymond Green are separated?
Oh, that's right now. That's already
how long until they get separated?
That's right now.
Yeah.
That's right now.
They're in the tunnel right now being separated?
This is why when people tell you that people play against their friends the way they play against their foes, that's an absolute lie. You just told me that Chris Paul averages the most against who?
The Warriors.
That's no accident. That's the team he dislikes the most. Mm-hmm. You know, he don't dislike Tony Parker that way. And Tony Parker wasn't the one went between the legs, behind the back, made him fall on the baseline and make a jump over.
Everybody see it and everybody tweet at him.
And he wasn't the guy that's going down the escalator in his own commercial while another guy is ascending. So there's no that's the beauty about competition, and I'm looking forward to the matchup.
I can't wait to see this one. Because one thing, you know me, I like drama. I like storylines, I like controversy, and I like teams that don't like each other. There has been a lot of, especially focused around Blake against the Warriors, there's been a lot of talk, there's been a lot of dust-ups, there's been a lot of sort of elbows and loose balls and give me the ball back and refs getting involved, and there's going to be more of that tonight.
And a lot of, hold me back!
And there always is. But let's take a look at Klay Thompson. We haven't had a show since his 60-point game. It was one of the more outstanding, shocking offensive displays I'd ever seen. Not just because of the point total, but he only dribbled the ball 11 times. He held the ball for about just over a second every time he touched it, and all of those numbers that have come out since. What did you think of his 60-point performance?
As a player and as an analyst, the two things that I value most in players, besides effort, is efficiency. And the two players that embody that the most for me, just as somebody that is immersed in basketball, are Kawhi Leonard and Klay Thompson. I've said for 3 years that Klay Thompson is the best catch-and-shoot player in the NBA.
Everyone's raising their hand with Kyle Korver, I suppose. Like, who else are we even talking about?
There were times I would get an argument. Sometimes people would say Kyle Korver. Sometimes people would say J.J. Redick. And I continue to beat that drum. That game, to score 60 points, 29 minutes, is something that'll never happen again. I remember being a player having 20 to 25 points in less than 30 minutes. And the only other two players that had done it in the league were Ben Gordon and Arvydas Sabonis. He clearly blew that out of the water.
Sure did. Shouts to Arvydas Sabonis, though.
Now, here's what I mean by the effectiveness to go with the efficiency. Usually when players score a lot of points, they're doing a lot of creating off the bounce. No matter what the setup is, whether it's a single double, they're catching the ball, they're still dribbling towards the paint to shoot, or dribbling all the way to the rim, or getting it off a fast break, pushing it up, pulling up in transition. To only take 11 dribbles and to score 60 points, that will never be duplicated. That's the most efficient, high-scoring basketball game that will happen in the history of the league.
Cavs are in New York.
Yep.
President of basketball operations for the New York Knicks is a gentleman by the name of Phil Jackson. President of basketball operations, co-owner, general manager, head coach, and star player for the Cavs is a gentleman by the name of LeBron James. Not his official title. Not his official titles.
Like what you did there, sir.
So, of course, we're going to talk about the posse comment that Phil Jackson made earlier this season about LeBron and his team. When he was forced, he tried to downplay it real quick. He's like, there's nothing to discuss. But he did say this. He said, quote, "I guess word choice could be something I regret." He didn't say word choice is something I regret. He said, I guess word choice could be something I regret. Do you consider that an apology?
Hit the brakes. I never pay attention to people's apologies, in particular if I don't think they're sincere. And the other thing is, even if someone does apologize or choose not to in Phil's case, I pay attention to their actions. Will he do that again? No. So that's all I need to know, first and foremost. Second, a lot of people are actually taking out of context what he said and what makes it disrespectful. Usually the term entourage has been used when it seemed that, almost like the television show, that the people around you are bringing value. And that was normally attributed to players that didn't look like me. Where the term posse was attributed to players that look like me, when it was like, as Phil said, these are his words, by the way, to fetch the cars and the girls. That's the overtone. That's not bringing value. These are hanger-ons. And so LeBron, Maverick, Rich, Randy, they've outgrown those terms, Phil. Now they need to be looked at as corporate professionals, businessmen that have become really successful in an endeavor that you actually work in. Just think about this. Phil does what for the Knicks?
President of basketball operations.
What does Rich Paul do?
He is an agent.
Okay. So that means he represents players. Mm-hmm. So that means their businesses are actually intertwined.
Yes.
So that means that probably should be somebody that you're finding a way to foster a good relationship with, which is why you haven't been able to sign all-star level free agents since you've been the president.
LeBron was asked if he would meet with Phil if Phil wanted to have a word with him. LeBron, without hesitation, was just like, nope.
And it wasn't just him. It was Kevin Durant. It's anybody that's been a free agent. And so what Melo did was like, y'all can't get nobody to come to New York. I ain't leaving. Matter of fact, I'm going to re-sign and not even no trade clause.
It's in my contract that I can't leave. So I'm
No
going to
trade
be here.
clause.
If you can't sign anybody else, that's fine. I'll play. I'll score 35. We'll still
And
win.
y'all not trade me to the Kings for Boogie.
Nope.
Now, maybe y'all could trade me to the Cavs or the Clippers, but other than that, I'm going to veto it. Mm-hmm. So James Dolan actually did a genius job of purchasing the narrative at a time when Knicks fans were picketing outside the arena for him to step down at his position, owner. He hired Phil, gave him a $65 million contract, and all that went away. People felt like it was validated. He re-signed Melo, and he drafted Porzingis. Everybody was good. It was all good just a week ago. Then he couldn't build a team through the draft. Then he had to remix that, sign some old veterans, and all of a sudden they're a team that just hopes to make the playoffs and that's been playing well. Porzingis will be a multi-time All-Star. Carmelo's still playing at a high level, but nowhere near a contending team with multi-star level players like we see in Golden State, for example. People thought that Phil was going to bring that cachet to New York. It didn't happen. But these are the type of situations that you can't find yourself in as the president of operations because that doesn't help you get players. So he was out of turn, which is why he said he could have been out of bounds with his comment. In other words, he know he was. He just ain't going to own it.
In New York, the Cavs generally stay at the Trump Soho Hotel. LeBron James is not staying at the Trump Soho Hotel. However, when asked about it, he said, I'm not trying to make a statement. Quote, it's just my personal preference. It would be the same if I went to a restaurant and decided to eat chicken and not steak. He's downplaying it. He's saying it's no, just my personal preference. It's just a choice that I have, and I decided to choose one way. He's saying it's not a statement that he's making. Why is he downplaying this action?
What type of news is this?
Why is it broken news, Jalen?
So the unique thing about doing this job is we cover current events in sports and pop culture. And a lot of times when you say things on wax, while they may be forward-thinking and projections, it sometimes rubs people the wrong way. And that's what I did when I talked about a Trump presidency that was going to get a lot of balk, a Trump presidency at the White House that a lot of players, in particular NBA and NFL players, were going to balk at the opportunity to attend. Mm-hmm. So if they're not going to go to his house, of course they're not going to a hotel branded in his name. Now, what I personally would have liked LeBron to do, a la Ali, a la Bill Russell, a la Jim Brown, hold up your head, stick out your chest, and own it.
Why did he downplay it? I think he just didn't want to talk about it, maybe. He just didn't want to deal.
There becomes an emotional fatigue as it relates to being socially and politically conscious that can take place, that when you're a leader in that space, people constantly want you to rally for the cause and sometimes for their cause, which is mutually exclusive, which is way different from your cause. And he's going to New York for one reason, win a basketball game.
He wants to beat the Knicks.
That's why he's going to New York. And so, again, if I was in his position, would have used that opportunity to say exactly why I'm not staying there. And it's not just him. It's going to be other people on his team. It's going to be other teams. It's going to be other sports. And the other sport is the NFL. Remember, you're not going to necessarily hear a lot about this in hockey. You may hear a little bit about it in baseball. Why you think that is? These are sports that are dominated in particular by black minorities. And because of that, during the run along the presidency, a lot of people felt alienated, and that's a group that felt as such just as strong as a lot of other groups, which is why those leagues, those groups, those players, in particular the MVP of the NBA Finals now, is deciding that he doesn't want to stay in that branded hotel.
Who's on the team that's like, you know what, I really like those pillows, though. I'm staying at the Trump. Like, who's on the team that's like, that comforter is really nice, and they've got this sandwich, they've got this club sandwich that they bring me. I love it there. I'm not moving.
Here's where, you're not going to like this. Here's where professional interests sometimes trump personal social activism. Because when you're LeBron and a couple other guys that play multiple minutes, you can do that because you have staying power. But when you know that your owner, Dan Gilbert, who I really like, fellow Detroiter, is a Trump supporter, you're probably not in a position to have the coach or the GM say anything to you except about how you're playing or not playing. And so even if there are guys that 10 to 15 on the roster that hope to follow in the footsteps of LeBron James, won't, because professionally it doesn't put them in a position to ingratiate themselves in corporate America with their boss.
It's tough reality. John Wall scored 52 points.
Repping the 5.
And the Wizards still lost. It has been a lost season for the Wizards. Dug themselves into a hole that does not look like they are going to dig themselves out of. After the game, when speaking about the effort of his teammates, here's what John Wall had to say.
I mean, our job is to wake up and just play hard. I mean, before you made it to the NBA or got any college scholarships, you played hard every day to get to where you wanted to. And to still be talking about playing hard, that's something that you should be able just to do waking up. I mean, everybody got a job, they got to go in and work hard. Our job is to come in and play hard and compete. That's the easiest thing. That shouldn't have to do with any contracts, any money. You just come in and play basketball.
What is he saying?
I'm rolling. What he's saying is we're actually in the Eastern Conference, and though we're 7-13, we're only 3.5 games out of the 6th spot.
Ugh.
Mediocrity is taking place in that conference. So if we find a play so much, the two hardest things to get an NBA team to do for 82 games that has nothing to do with skill is to play hard and to play together.
How come the Wizards can't play hard? He's looking at his teammates saying, you guys aren't playing hard. When he gets back on the bus, when they have a practice, when they get in the locker room, when they get to the hotel or whatever it is, don't they look at him like, are you serious, John?
Not if he's right. And you don't make it to this level and you don't struggle the way the Wizards have struggled overall by not owning it, because we can see it. Marcin Gortat came out earlier in the year and basically said they had the worst bench in the game, which he shouldn't have done. He's in a salary cap driven sport. Your highest paid players need to be the ones that actually are the most productive. Gortat, Morris, and Bradley Beal, who got a maximum contract this offseason, and John Wall, who's clearly, putting up big numbers and playing well. So their fortunes is going to rely on those guys and see if they can truly be consistent. Otto Porter's shown some flashes of being able to be a productive player, but they're in the East. And if you look other than the Cavs and somewhat the Raptors, you can flip a coin for who's going to play better from 3 down.
Who knows? Who's going to make the playoffs even? Like, who knows in the Eastern Conference? The Knicks are in the hunt all of a sudden, playing well, 4 straight as they host the Cavs. Here's what Phil said about Carmelo Anthony and his stickiness with the basketball. Quote, Carmelo a lot of time wants to hold the ball longer than we have a rule. If you hold a pass 2 seconds, you benefit the defense. So he has a little bit of a tendency to hold it 3, 4, 5 seconds, and then everybody comes to a stop. Why is Phil saying this about his star player, Carmelo Anthony?
One of my favorite players in the game was Adrian Dantley. So much so that I copied his free throws where I used to go to the line and I used to spin the ball 3 times too before I actually shot the ball. Until I realized that was too long and I shortened it to 2. But he used to catch the ball on the wing and would literally wipe off the ball, wipe off his shorts, take a deep breath, then get into a 3-point stance and then score 30. Like, this is what he would do when he got the ball. And the ball clearly was stopped. The Detroit Pistons traded him for Mark Aguirre. So the ball will move more fluid. You get different points, and now you unlock not only Mark's game, but Dennis Rodman's game. So you're getting 2 for 1 in theory within your own roster. That dynamic played out to the point where the Pistons won back-to-back championships. I bring that up because while Phil is talking about Carmelo in a negative light publicly, which, by the way, he should not be doing.
That's what
Team
I'm
won
saying.
4 straight. You can't trade him.
Can't you just say this in practice?
But here's the other thing.
Why are you going to the media and being like, here's what's wrong with my star player?
But this is what makes this unique. It does not matter what you say. He has a no-trade clause. So that's what makes all of that irrelevant. That just makes it noise. But the true point is, yeah, we've won 4 straight, but he wants to invoke the triangle directly or indirectly as the reason why. So it's not about Porzingis, it's not about Melo, it's not about Rose, it's about, we're still trying to perfect the triangle. And yeah, I talked to Melo about, hold it 2 seconds, give it up. Other than that, you're holding it too long. The triangle is an outdated thing.
And in this conversation, he was talking about how Melo could be the Kobe Bryant. He could be the Michael Jordan in the triangle, but he's deficient because he holds the ball too much.
What position on the perimeter did it suggest that Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan played?
2 or 3.
The 2. They played guard. And I am a big proponent of talking about positionless basketball. Melo plays up front. So in today's game, that's going to be some at the 3, some at the 4. That's what he does. So first off, it's going to look different. Just like what you see when the guard's the leading scorer, maybe a Golden State, maybe Boston, Portland, that offense is going to look different than San Antonio's, whose forwards lead them in scores. So first and foremost, for somebody that has been around the game as long as he does, he should realize first and foremost it's just going to look different because they play different positions. The next thing is, because they play different positions, the guards usually are initiating the offense from the top of the floor. The wing gets the ball, on the side of the floor. So when you get the ball on the side of the floor, unless really it's a screen and roll situation or a situation where somebody's putting you in a position to catch and shoot or curl, you got to unlock the floor. And what's the first thing they teach you to do? Get in a three-point position. Unlock the floor where you can dribble, pass, and shoot. So a guy that's going to the Hall of Fame predominantly because he's an offensive force for 13-plus years or more, that's what Carmelo Anthony's going to do.
Defense, Jill.
Correct. So because of that, why would he trade what's made him so successful for a team that may make it to the playoffs? Not going to be able to do it. It's just not going to happen.
Makes sense.
And so from that, you may not like it, but the same Hall of Fame that LeBron, Wade, Paul Pierce, Dirk, and Chris Bosh is going to be in, and I'll throw Chris Bosh in there, Dwight Howard, Carmelo Anthony, CP3.
Sure.
They're going to be in the same room.
And they should. Staying in the Eastern Conference, and a team that has been pretty surprisingly playing well, especially without one of their best players, Zach Randolph, is the Grizzlies. Zach Randolph returned, and he's been out because of the loss of his mother. It was an emotional moment. The crowd gave him a standing ovation when he came in the game. My question for you is, what is it like playing professional basketball while in your personal life you have very emotional things that you have to deal with?
I love Zebo. Big shout. Prayers to he and his family. That's one of my little brothers in the game. And I know it's a really tough time for him. And I appreciated the way the fans handled that. I appreciated how he tried to do his best to compose himself in the post-game interview, which I know was a really tough moment for he and his teammates. I appreciate the progression of watching him mature on and off the floor. A lot of decisions that he was making that probably put him in awkward spots, he's not making anymore. And to play with the loss of somebody that you really love or a personal situation where you're grieving, I've had that happen a couple of times. One in particular, I was in college, and my Uncle Ruben passed. And it was right before we played against Duke my junior year at home. Big shout out to Parrish Smith, my brother from EPMD, flew in town to come give me support, along with my brother D. Wade, stayed at the house, and the apartment, that is. And I just remember trying to do the best I can to stay locked into the task at hand. Mm-hmm. And while we lost the game, I think I had a career high in points. I think I had like 34 points in that game or something. And I was playing with two patches because my cousin 808, Bobby Moore, had also passed recently prior to that. So for me, I think when I've hit turbulence, it's put me in a position to be better. I'm not looking for more turbulence to test this theory in any way, shape, or form. And I appreciated how Zebo handled it, and I think he's going to continue to do such for the rest of the year.
Today's December 7th, 2016. More importantly, it's the birthday of none other than Larry Joe Bird. You played for Larry Bird. He was your head coach. He took over as the head coach while you were there. I have so many questions about this experience. And on his birthday, I'm going to indulge myself. When he first addressed the team officially as the head coach, what was his message?
You guys have 3 years to win a championship because that's all I'm going to coach.
Why did he say that? He must have given reasoning for that.
His reasoning was he felt like his message may fall on deaf ears after that point, and he knew his associate head coach at the time, Rick Carlisle, would be more capable of stepping in and taking the reins. Though the team didn't hire Rick after Larry left, they hired Isaiah Thomas. For Larry Bird, the unique thing that he helped do for me, a player that, as a Detroit native, a Bad Boys fan, broke my heart a lot of times. Oh, Bird steals the ball underneath the DJ. I rooted against him his entire career because he used to crush my squad.
Of course.
And I just appreciate the fact that it was going into my 4th season. And soon as he got the job, at that point, lottery picks weren't the ones that wanted to still go play Summer League going into their 4th year in the NBA. If you look at what happens in Summer League now, usually these are undrafted free agents, these are rookies. I was going into my 4th year and I actually played Summer League. And the reason why I did that is I went from playing for one Hall of Fame coach in Larry Brown, who gave me 15 DMPs, and if it was up to him at that point, he would have ran me out of the league, to now playing for a Hall of Fame player who believed in me, but more importantly, gave me confidence and validated me. He said, I believe I can turn him into a productive player and a productive individual.
How did he say that to you? Did he ever pull you aside? What did he say to you?
He pulled me to the side, and I know coaches don't like to admit this publicly, and I think if Larry Bird was given some sodium pentothal and somebody asked him the question, since you started coaching and through being an executive, who's your favorite? I truly think he would say me.
What makes you say that, Jalen?
Because we met each other when we were both at a unique crossroad, personally and professionally. There were some things happening that I just can't discuss, but the things I can discuss is he was going to be a first-time head coach. He knew that I wanted to establish myself with that basketball team, and a unique level of respect that he had for my biological father, playing and understanding the history of what took place in the Boston area, where my father was from, started Providence, Jimmy Walker, who went on to be the #1 pick in the 1967 draft. So he admired him. And so now to have me on the team and to see my single parent dynamic, never knowing my biological father, I think that he gravitated to me, that if there was somebody that can kind of validate me and steer me in the right direction, he felt like that he could be that person. Here's a guy from French Lick, Indiana. Here's a guy from Detroit, Michigan. When we walk out of a room, you're like, that's an unlikely duo. Mm-hmm. And so I've always appreciated that. And on his birthday, I got to do a better job of making sure I personally reach out to him. Forget tweeting him, forget saying it on the show, just calling him, saying how thankful I am, and send him a case of wine or something.
No, it's not just your upbringing that sort of like makes you guys very different. You're a very expressive, you're an outgoing person, you're loud. He's not like that. He's stoic. He's not emotional. He doesn't seem to me to be the most sensitive guy. How did he reflect that as a head coach?
I think when you've dealt with adversity, you understand that while that turbulence is going to take place, navigating it truly shows your character. So people forget that he didn't initially go to Indiana State. He actually signed to Indiana and was going to play for Bobby Knight. Had some personal issues with his dad passing. Mm-hmm. And he just not only dropped out of school, but literally he didn't go to school or play basketball that year.
He was just driving tractors.
Just think about that. One of the greatest players of all time. There was a year where he was driving tractors, not enrolled in the collegiate.
At an age when players now are in the league playing NBA basketball, he's just driving tractors on his farm.
Correct. So that level of humility and the things that he's had to endure beyond basketball, I think, allowed him to gravitate to somebody like me, who he felt like in a different way he looked in the mirror and saw me overcoming and still needing to work to overcome a lot of challenges.
So we see the stoic leader, head coach, the unemotional guy, but behind closed doors at practices, he must have been funny. Did he play with you guys? Did he hang out with you guys?
Well, he was going through some issues with his back. For those that don't know, this is the reason why he basically said it after the 86 season, he felt like he should have retired then because he continued to have back issues. So because of that, there were times when he would just fling up a couple of shots, but it wasn't anything like serious because he was still doing his rehab in that area. But the thing that he was able to embody that I always appreciated, it was like he was E.F. Hutton. When he talked, people listened. It was economy of words, like I described with Kawhi and almost Klay Thompson in a lot of ways. Like when he had something to say, you had to take it as for being the gospel. And for me, being what was considered his reclamation project, being a young player on a team that had a lot of vets, working me into the rotation, getting me quality minutes on a team that didn't make the playoffs Larry Brown's last year. That was losing in Game 7 to Michael and the Bulls in Chicago the next year. So that just shows you not only how far our team came, but how far I've come and how far the organization have come in only 1 year.
Here's a question I need answered. What did he say about Michael Jordan? What did he say were Michael Jordan's weaknesses? What did he say? What was his strategy against Michael Jordan?
His strategy against Michael Jordan at the time is you got to take away his layups and dunks. You got to keep him perimeter oriented. Of course, when you talk about the greatest player in the game, the thing that makes it unique is MJ can beat you on the other end too because he was also the best defensive player. So he had his notable games and his signature moments against our Pacers squads. But in the years that they won championships, they only went to Game 7 one time, and that was against us. And we were beating them in Game 7 by double figures. And I never forget being a young player, getting minutes, come in, make a couple of shots, going to the sideline, pump, like, yeah, we about to handle this. And then I get taken out of the game. I'm like, wait a minute.
We got the handle, we're having the handle in this.
Like, yo. And Coach Bird, and I love being able to call him that because not too many people can call him that. I'll never forget when I came to the bus. The first thing he said to me, everybody was somber. We just lost a big game. I made a mistake. I felt like I should have kept you out there. I should have got you more minutes. I'm going to make it up to you next year. And before you know it, my minutes increased. I started becoming a starter, and our team started to get better. That's the year when we lost to the Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals, when Larry Johnson hit the bogus 4-point plays. I love you, Grandmama.
Legitimate 4-point
My
play.
dude. UNLV, if you look at the replay of that play, I'm guarding the inbounder. I deflect the ball. It goes to LJ. He hesitates. Antonio Davis reaches in
gets fouled
while he was on the floor, and they give him a 4-point play, and the Gardeners erupted probably the most since it has since the early 70s. And so to have Larry Bird as somebody that I know not only consider my coach, a mentor, somebody that validated me, a leader, somebody that I could have beers with, somebody I could talk ball with, somebody that I know trusts my opinion. It really means a lot to me whether I'm traveling with the team overseas and I get a chance to ride on the team plane and me and him sitting on the sideline talking about roster moves, and he's trusting what I have to say. So I'm very grateful for all he's done to validate and put me in a position to be successful, because if he doesn't do that, in my opinion, what has transgressed, what has taken place since then, before and off the floor, to me would not have happened if he hadn't validated me to mainstream media, NBA personalities, more importantly, unlock my potential as a player.
One of the things I love about professional athletes and talking to them is this attitude. I'm going to ask you a simple question. If you would have gotten more playing time in Game 7 against Michael Jordan and the Bulls, would you and the Pacers have won?
No.
It's not what I expected you to say. That's why I love doing this show with you. Yep. Jalen Rose.
What up, though?
Cam Newton was not allowed to play the first possession in his game against the Seahawks. Now, everybody, Ron Rivera talked about it. Cam Newton talked about it. Oh, it was because he didn't wear a tie. Now, I just have a simple sentiment that's best voiced by a gentleman by the name of LL Cool J regarding this matter. It wasn't because he didn't wear a tie.
It was not.
He has not worn a tie multiple occasions. Now, there's a few things that could potentially happen, okay? One is that he didn't wear a tie once, and they said, Cam, you got to wear a tie. And he didn't wear a tie again, and they said, Cam, you got to wear a tie. And then he didn't wear a tie a third time. They said, Cam, if you don't wear a tie again, we're going to have to do something. You're kind of like disrespecting us now. This is like you're forcing my hand to do something. And then it was multiple infractions. And that is why he was not allowed to play the first possession. However, our show comes on a little bit later. We don't have to be as journalistically sound as some of our colleagues do. We go on to little parts of the internet and read little reports here and there that aren't exactly like, vetted by the news department at ESPN at this wonderful company where there's very serious journalism.
That's why our guide says sports and pop culture.
There's a little corner of the internet. It's been reported by Barstool Sports and other places. Little rumors and unnamed sources here and there saying that it wasn't exactly because he didn't wear a tie. There was an excursion, a little field trip that Cam and some of the other Carolina players went on while they were in the Bay Area for a week. That field trip could have been to a gentleman's club. And perhaps Cam's leadership role in this excursion is why he was not allowed to play. Do you think there could be any truth to this rumor?
I think there's a lot of truth to that. And we acknowledged when we first heard the story that it clearly wasn't about him wearing a tie, because you could go and buy a shirt and tie at any time. He's a multimillionaire.
Not hard to get a tie.
And also, if you've ever watched him dress, you could clearly tell he has a stylist, though that stylist probably dresses him in the dark sometimes. Now, there is footage online of Mr. Cameron Newton enjoying himself at an adult entertainment establishment, which is legal.
He's been known to go to these places. There's nothing wrong with that.
And I just got to, hold on.
Uh-oh. Jalen, what's going to happen now? Don't get fired.
Remember, it's Women Crush
Wednesday.
Okay.
Remember, it's Women Crush Wednesday.
Okay. And I, like anybody else, have done that type of philanthropic and charity work to influence women on a Wednesday or on any day of that matter.
Sure.
I'm pretty sure I have some imaginary jerseys hanging up at some of those establishments across the country. So with that being said, I'm really versed on speaking on that, in particular in Atlanta. You know why? Because that's where Cam Newton is from. And a lot of what you do is based on what you're exposed to. Atlanta is one of those cities where going to adult entertainment establishment is almost like another city going to a restaurant.
Wild Wings. Yeah. Just this is what you do.
It's just what you do. People in Atlanta go on dates at strip clubs. As a matter of fact, you just saw Iman Shumpert and his mate Tiana Taylor at a strip club enjoying the festivities together. So you have to take the individual into account. So for Cam himself, that's no big deal. But here's the issue. The issue is when you're on company time and dime, i.e. they buy your hotel and they pay for your ticket.
I'm sure they set your schedule too. They say you need to be at this place at this time, and tomorrow morning we've got this. And
when that happens, you clearly have to abide by the rules. And when you don't abide by those rules, when a team says we're going to stay in California, it's not because they want you to champagne and campaign on the West Coast all week.
No, it's not because there's some great restaurants in the Bay Area that they want you to enjoy. They don't want you to go to wine country.
They were being hopeful that you would use that time to reset your body clock so you could play better the next week.
Just keep yourself away from distractions.
And so when you're in a position of leadership, you can either be a part of the problem or part of the solution. And so Cam not being the type of leader that would say, hey guys, guess what? We ain't going to the playoffs. And you know what? In the offseason, from January to August, Cam can go to the strip club as many times as he wants.
He can move in.
He can do any time he wants. But during this period of time, it's just not a good look, especially when your team's not winning and you're the former MVP that's not playing as such this year.
A couple things. There's been no pictures of him in the strip club during this time. There's been no reports. There's just been some rumors and hearsay here and there. But, I don't know if he went to a strip club. I don't know if that's why he was disciplined. But I do know this is he wasn't disciplined because he didn't wear a tie once. That's just not what happened. And that is what they got together and decided they were going to tell us what happened. But anyone who knows how these things work know that you do not bench Cam Newton because he didn't wear a tie one time.
But also, too, while you use that example, you probably have to use the example that He probably was benched for that series because it wasn't the first time he got reprimanded for the adult entertainment during the season part.
Who knows? Who knows if that's the case?
Which, hold on, there is footage when they went 15-1 of him actually being at such said venue. And so how things take place when you're winning versus when you're losing does factor.
Well, let's look at this. Speaking of which, on champagning and campaigning. Monday night, there's a Monday Night Football game between the Colts and the Jets. I don't know if you saw it. I don't know if anybody knew that game happened, but it did. It wasn't that entertaining. Instead of watching that game, as Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott normally do, students of the game, they were out champagning and campaigning at a nightclub. It is different when you are the Panthers with high expectations, performing poorly, and you're rumored to be going out. And then when you're Zach and Deke and you are 11-1 and you're out on Monday night, people celebrate that.
It's different, though, because one is a strip club and one is an actual club. And those are viewed different in corporate America. You can sugarcoat it however you want it. And the hypocrisy that goes with it is that these places aren't only being frequented by athletes and entertainers. There are a lot of businessmen that spend a lot more time, energy, and money in those establishments that you'd be surprised that are clearly there when you think they're at happy hour at a restaurant. That's just how it goes. And so with that, yeah, they're eating, but they're eating from there at that buffet. And for Cam, for Ezekiel, for Dak Prescott, I have to turn into old man Jalen for something.
Uh-oh, old man Jalen again.
I do.
OMJ is back.
The game has changed. Gone are the days that things that were done in the dark didn't come to light. Like when some of your favorite players, like Michael Jordan, who had a propensity to be at the casino, or Allen Iverson, who would be out and about with the best of them. There was no footage. It was only urban legend.
And there's also no Twitter. Like the common person that saw them out could not just turn and make it a public thing.
Right. And so why that has changed for the worse in that realm, you know how Jay-Z made a song that said, what's it?
It's a hard knock life.
No, the Roger Troutman. What did Roger Troutman coin? The Voice. Man, we got some bad people on the show.
No, now we got bad people on the show because you can't think of something from your own brain. You're going to point the finger at the staff of the show. That's what you're doing right now?
No.
Are you serious?
I would hope by the time I start putting what in my ear, they would tell me what it is.
Are you serious? No one knows what you're talking about on the show.
What did Jay-Z say was dead?
Auto-tune?
Auto-tune. Okay. Thank you. Ain't nobody heard that record?
Jalen.
Man, y'all done got too lazy around
here. Jalen, an old man Jalen need to look in the mirror sometime when your own brain doesn't work to the point where you can't get your own thoughts together.
You know how Jay-Z came out and said auto-tunes is dead. Champagne and campaigning at the club is dead.
What?
The footage is on wax. And here's another thing I want to teach. And I know we talked a lot about making it rain. And there's video of Cameron Newton, not from this trip, making it rain in Thunderstorm. And I know we had a female caller that works in the business that said that she doesn't mind when people make it rain because it makes it more attractive to the other customers and she feels good about it. But what happens when you're in those situations where there's alcohol, there's testosterone, you're famous, you have a lot to lose. When you're throwing the money, when you're spraying the champagne, it ain't about you having fun. It's about you spraying it and getting the money on somebody that's trying to figure out how they're going to pay for their light bill, their gas bill, or their rent. They're not having as much fun. They're there actually for stress relief. Like, man, things ain't as happy at the house as I want them to be. You know, the gig ain't necessarily what I wanted to. They're not treating me at the gig the way I wish. So they're there to try to enjoy themselves. Now you come throwing your money on me, you're showing me up. You're spraying your champagne on me. You're showing me up. Now that leads to potential altercations. We saw with LaShawn McCoy. I mean, I could name 100 times that athletes have been out and about, in particular, not only at the club, but in New York City, where those situations went awry.
It's over.
It's over.
Champagne
came and it's over. It's dead.
Over.
It's dead. Especially at the club. It's dead.
Very briefly, a moment of silence from Jalen Jacoby for champagning and campaigning.
Yeah, it's dead. Got to pull out a little bit. Anytime.
It's not silence, Jalen.
Anytime somebody.
Silence. You don't do silence, do you?
Anytime somebody can put you on Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, Vine, your activities that you're trying to do off wax, it's over.
Tim Tebow update, Jalen Rose. Tim Tebow will be attending spring training for the New York Mets. I love my Tim Tebow updates. How excited are you for this season with Tim Tebow in spring training? How excited are you for that?
He's afforded opportunities based on his celebrity. You can't fight it, can't be mad at it. It's clearly not because of his productivity as a baseball player. Now let's see if that affords him the right to continue to participate in spring training to the point where they actually put him in a major league game that's meaningful. Because during a 162-game schedule, the one thing I learned about baseball, they can milk the money out of a one night. They can milk the money out of a regional broadcast. While the national sentiment for baseball isn't as enthusiastic, the local markets clean up. And I can see a Tim Tebow night, people rocking his jerseys, people coming to watch him play, bobblehead night. He's a celebrity. He's a public figure. They're just following the money.
Tom Brady is now the winningest quarterback in the history of the National Football League. However, did not get a congratulatory phone call from Roger Goodell. Why do you think he didn't get a call? Because
that's a meaningless stat when it relates to a commissioner and his duties on a daily basis. He can't be reaching out to players every time, you the guy that has the most 100-yard games, or you the guy that...
Does Roger Goodell secretly root against the Patriots?
He does not. Because
he doesn't secretly root against the Patriots?
Let me tell you something. If Roger Goodell secretly rooted against the Patriots, he wouldn't have allowed Tom Brady to complete that year when Deflategate happened. They clearly allowed them to continue to compete.
You can't take them out there.
Go to the Super Bowl. And how about this? Gave them a chance to restructure his salary so the 4 games he missed actually didn't cost him as much as it could have or should have. And it put them in position, because they had a chance to plan, to develop 2 backup quarterbacks. So, no, he doesn't hate them at all.
Pat McAfee, the punter for the Colts.
And there's no asterisk after Deflategate next to their Super Bowl championship.
Had a nice punt. Did a little celebration dance a la the official punter of Jalen Jacoby, Marquette King. Pat McAfee also tweeted Antonio Brown before the Thanksgiving Day game and said, "Please do not plant your foot in my chest and run me over as you did last time. My mother will be there." Pat McAfee is making a run to replace Marquette King as the official punter of Jalen Jacoby. Are you going to let him do it?
Not going to be able to do it. And the unique thing about Marquette King is not too many people that are kicking footballs or punting footballs in the NFL that look like him.
Talking about his facial hair, right?
No.
The gentleman in India claims that his wife has not slept with him for over a decade.
I saw this story.
So he comes home one night, admittedly drunk. He was admittedly drunk. He came home and he tried to engage in coitus with his spouse. She rebuffed his advances, and then he went and, for lack of a better way of saying it, he cut off his own penis in protest. What? I have a lot to discuss on this topic, Jalen Rose.
What?
But first thing I want to say is, when you come home drunk, you're drunk. You know what? Come on, man. Like, your wife doesn't want you coming home late and drunk and then trying to get it on. Like, come on, man.
So what he did actually has a term that I got to make sure on Women Crush Wednesday acknowledge. That's Lorena Bobbitt.
But he did it to himself.
Correct. And so for him to do it to himself,
he self-bobbited.
What I want to acknowledge that's really important, and clearly there's way more to any relationship than the physicality of sex, but it does play a part of it. And if that need isn't being fulfilled by your mate, then what ends up happening is you start to search for other venues for that satisfaction. So it will be interesting to see over the past 10 years how disciplined he's been in his relationship, but more importantly, her as well. Because it takes 2 to tango.
What are you doing here, Jalen? What are you doing here?
Here's what I'm doing. Here's the climax. You like that? You like that? You like that? That's your boy Kirk Cousins. Here's the climax.
You like that? You like that?
How do you last together 10 years and you're not doing it, and it's by choice?
Well, here's the thing I'm focused on.
No, that's what I'm focused on.
If you are so intoxicated that then you will bob it yourself, you'll remove your own penis from your body using a knife. If you are that intoxicated, of course she doesn't want to have sex with you.
Jacoby, over 10 years, he's come home and he's waking up in the morning in all types of states.
We don't know the different details of their relationship.
We do know the details.
We don't know the details. We don't know the details.
Here's the detail.
He could be Romeo. He could be the perfect husband. He could be the absolute perfect husband. He could be wooing her every single day, writing her poems, just caring to her, giving him all the foot rubs that you think I should be giving my wife. He could be the perfect husband and still be getting rebuffed and be frustrated after 10 years. Or he could be the opposite of that. You know, so we don't know the details. Maybe there's good reason that she hasn't had sex with him in 10 years. Maybe he has made himself so disgusting to her that she does not want to have sex with him in 10 years, and that's his own doing.
Well, then why are you married to me? If I'm so disgusting to you, then we shouldn't be married. So that's why I don't truly see the logic in, again, there may be some health reason or concern that we want to be sensitive to that she chooses not to. But I would think that over a 10-year period, it would be hard to imagine that either one of them hasn't cheated on the other. And here's what cheating is for everybody that don't know.
Oh, no.
Just like I did for snitching.
Oh, no.
Here's what cheating is.
What is cheating, Jalen?
It ain't always physical. Cheating is doing or saying something you wouldn't do or say if your mate was present. That text or that email that you may be sending to someone of the opposite sex, or maybe even the same sex, that DM that you want to quickly delete, same with those messages that you don't want your mate to see, that's called cheating.
That's cheating?
Yes.
If I buy myself $200 pair of sneakers, I'm cheating?
You know what?
Am I cheating? If I buy myself a $200 pair of sneakers, am I cheating? If I lose $500 in Vegas and I don't tell her, is that cheating?
No. The guy that knows he's married, that's still trying to small talk with the girl at the office, the guy the lady that knows she's married, that's at happy hour, still allowing the guy to feed her drinks and continue to inherit all of the conversation. Because, like I've said on this program, it can stop initially by his or her response. Hey, how are you? If they are not wearing a ring, are you in a relationship? If that answer is yes, all bets should be off. Now, initially, when she doesn't or he doesn't just flat out say yes, well, you know, we kind of going through some stuff, and you start hedging it, then all of a sudden, the guy or the girl starts to feel like, they still trying to holler at me anyway. You know what I mean? But I just feel that if they were in a committed relationship for 10 years and hadn't stepped out in either way, shape, or form, and they're not having sex, that would be really unique. And I would bet against that.
Yep. We got to work on your definition of cheating, Jalen.
That's
because I'm just thinking about when I leave my twin babies outside the coffee shop and I go inside to get coffee. Is that cheating?
No. You
just because you do something that you don't tell your significant other about doesn't mean that you're cheating.
But you're doing.
I like where you're at in your head.
No, you're doing frivolous examples.
But it needs to be somewhat related to interactions with the opposite sex.
How about this? The examples you just gave weren't.
You are listening to this, and you are a female. First of all, thank you very much, and we love you. But we need your help. We want our Twitter's questions and our voicemails to be 100% female every single Wednesday.
Preach. Say that again. Say that again.
We need you, women that listen to this show, that we appreciate. We need you to call 985-80-JALEN and leave voicemail messages. Leave your questions, leave your opinions, leave your comments, leave your feedback. We also need you to tweet our 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed at Jalen Jacoby, as we hope to make Women Crush Wednesday 100% female responses every single Wednesday. With that in mind, we will now open up our voicemail inbox, and we will start with a very special caller, someone who's very important to this program. Of course, Bill from Los Angeles gave us a message.
Hey guys, this is Bill from Los Angeles.
This is great.
Boogie Cousins blocked me on Twitter because I didn't vote for him for any of the 3 All-NBA teams last year. I happen to have an All-NBA vote. And it hurts my feelings because once upon a time I worked with a man named Jalen Rose, and we built the Boogie bandwagon from scratch. We polished it every night. We drove it around to keep the engine nice and fresh. We waxed it. We put little boogie flags on it. And all we did was promote this man. And just because I didn't vote for him for All-NBA during a year when he missed like 20 games and his team won 27 games, now I'm blocked on Twitter. My feelings are hurt. What do I have to do to win Boogie back? Because I think he's coming to my team in about 6 weeks. I miss you, brothers.
First of all, big shout out to Bill Simmons, the Podfather.
And a thank you to Bill. Without you, Podfather, there is no
None
us.
of this exists. None of this exists.
How about being the guy that says, you know what, you guys can just do whatever you want.
Do whatever you want. Just leave me alone.
I don't
Just
care what's
I don't
on
want
the
to get
wall.
emails about
I don't
it.
care what you
whatever
talk
you guys
about.
have to do. What do you want? Put up videos, a podcast, whatever. Do whatever you want. Do you. Don't get me in trouble. Don't get fired.
And he gave you a corporate credit card where you clearly take me out to eat frequently.
Okay, let's not discuss that.
Okay.
Boogie Cousins. Boogie! DeMarcus.
By the way, hold on. I gotta say a family comment.
No.
David Jacoby, the Podfather, Boogie Cousins all have something philanthropic in common.
All donators to the Jalen Rose Leadership Academy. We're all on the same page. We all want the same thing.
You guys
Mr.
are all
Cousins.
on the donor wall.
Mr. Cousins, we all want you to succeed. And when Bill says that him and Jalen built the Boogie bandwagon, he means that. Like, the Boogie bandwagon didn't have too many people on it when you guys started driving that thing around the block. And you had to put a new wing on the Boogie bandwagon. You had to start charging people to get on the Boogie bandwagon, checking their credentials. There is no... I don't like living in a world in which DeMarcus Cousins had blocked Bill Simmons on Twitter. You know what I mean? And I know that you have a relationship with DeMarcus. I just want you to appeal to him. Unblock Bill Simmons. Why?
So... the unique thing amongst, first off, there's multiple things that allow our brotherhood and our kinship to be a strong bond. Myself, you, and Bill. And once you become friends with somebody and you guys truly become family, now you appreciate the things you have in common. Two things we all have in common as it relates to the NBA that are stronger than ever. Our love for Larry Bird, who turned 60 today, and our love for Boogie.
Love Boogie Cousins.
And so I agree with you. As supporters of this very fine program, Boogie Cousins is a VIP access member of the family. We have to reach out to him via Twitter and say, unblock Bill.
Hashtag unblock Bill. Go to your Twitter right now. Pull over if you're listening to this. Pull over if you're in your car listening to this right now. Pull over. Tweet at DeMarcus Cousins. Hashtag unblock Bill. There's just, I don't like going to bed at night. Oh, the kids are sleeping. Everything seems right. The alarm is on. Everything's nice. I'm like, I had a great day. I worked hard, and I'm just excited about the next day. You know what? There's a dark cloud that hangs over me as I lay my head down on my pillow. In this world, DeMarcus Cousins has blocked Bill Simmons on Twitter. I can't live in this world. I can't live in this world, Jalen. Unblock Bill, DeMarcus.
And when he first got drafted to the Kings, this was a squad that, while still is in transition, hasn't found a consistent footing at the coaching level, at the level of trying to contend for a playoff team. The reason why it initially took place, besides the fact that I rooted for he and John Wall in college, I wanted to see them win a championship with Coach Cal, is that we felt he got too much of the blame for what happens for a young player that, in my theory, gets drafted to the wrong/bad team. You see it happening with Anthony Davis. You see it happen with DeMarcus Cousins. When a player re-signs with that squad and he's an all-star level player, I'm going to caution fans. I'm going to caution media. Damian Lillard, John Wall, the two guys I just mentioned, DeMar DeRozan, Isaiah Thomas. I'm going to go to the Western Conference. Players like Gordon Hayward and Gobert, Russell Westbrook, James Harden. I named all of those players for a reason.
What was the reason?
They have new deals, in theory, with the team that they played for prior. James Harden changed teams. Mm-hmm. When you don't appreciate the ebbs and flows, the ups and downs, the turbulence that comes from being in an organization that's not one of these storied ones, the Patriots in football, the Dallas Cowboys, the Lakers, the Celtics, now the Spurs. When you don't appreciate their productivity and allow them to continue to navigate, what ends up happening is something that everybody says they don't like. Super teams. And before you know it, you have KD like, I'm out of here. You guys don't appreciate me winning scoring titles and MVPs. I'm trying to go get championships. LeBron like Cleveland. I'm out of here. I can't get it done here. So be very careful when you don't allow those players still to be productive, put up their big numbers, and try to turn a franchise around like we saw Dirk eventually do in winning the championship in Dallas.
We're talking about appreciating people, right? If you're DeMarcus Cousins, you've got Bill Simmons, one of the most vocal voices in the NBA. He's got one of the largest reach in all of sports media, and he's been supporting you for 5 years. He's just been talking about how great you are and how the Kings need to trade you and how he wishes that he was on your team. He's been supporting you for years and years and years. How are you going to block him on Twitter? You need to unblock Bill. I mean, that is real. Like, if we are going to appreciate Boogie Cousins, he needs to appreciate Bill Simmons. Like, there is no more vocal person that speaks into microphones at a national level than Bill Simmons in his support for DeMarcus Cousins. Not everybody's talking about DeMarcus Cousins. The Kings aren't a contender. They're not even close. They're not going to make the playoffs. Bill has supported you for so long. You need to hashtag unblock Bill. Like right now. If you are listening to this, stop what you're doing for a second. Open up Twitter. Tweet DeMarcus Cousins. Use the hashtag unblockbill.
And use the hashtag GTG.
Oh, God. Oh, my God. This again?
Well, we're giving the people what they want.
I know, but Jalen, this is the most confusing hashtag on the entire internet. You can't even think of it. What's the hashtag you want me to use?
Who's calling me?
Jalen Rose lead or led?
Leadership Academy.
Oh, okay.
That's what we have in common as well.
What's the hashtag you want me to use?
I gotta write it down.
You gotta write it down. Exactly. That's the worst hashtag. Jalen, what are we doing this show? Dan Goldstein wants to know, if you were in your prime, what would your stat line be in today's NBA? But just where would you fit in the league? Who would you be?
I'm not going to be the older I get, the longer the walk was to school type of dude. But I will say this. The most I averaged in a season was around 23 when I played with the Bulls. And just as players started to be more versatile, a dubious stat. In 2000, there were only 2 players in the entire game that averaged 20 points, 6 assists, and 5 rebounds. Jamal Mashburn and myself. Now there are multiple players that are doing that.
Yeah.
So I would think that I would at least fall somewhere in between that.
Okay. Next question we have is from Anthony. Jalen Rose, what would you do if a kangaroo grabbed your dog?
Shoot him.
Okay, let me tell you why this question is coming up. There's a video from Australia where a kangaroo's got a dog in a headlock. The owner of the dog,
first off,
comes over.
Your arm's kind of short to be having me in the headlock.
I'm telling you, I saw the video. He's got him hammed up in a headlock.
I think I'm bouncing out of that.
I want to know what happened to get to that point.
I think I'm squirming up out of there. Yeah, your arm's too short.
Yeah, for real. And it's also like all we see in the video is it starts with the kangaroo having the dog in the headlock, but how do we even get to that point? I want the backstory in this one. I feel like this is like the second movie in the trilogy. I need to see the first movie. How did the dog end up in the headlock?
I would hope that the dog would have the type of speed and elusiveness where he could get away.
That's what I'm saying, especially from a kangaroo. And the kangaroo, like you said, the kangaroo's arms are so short that the kangaroo has to saddle up next to you before he even gets to the point. Like, it's almost like the kangaroo put his arm around the dog. It's like you're trying to comfort him, and then it slipped it into a headlock.
That's why I'm glad my woman crush on Wednesday forces me to go to the gym, eat things like kale that I never would have eaten in my life, and have a trainer, because when I'm out of shape, I'm built like a kangaroo.
So the dog's in a headlock. The owner of the dog comes over, yells at the kangaroo. Kangaroo releases the dog from the headlock. See, I know it because everyone has seen this video. I just like to get your fresh take on it. Release the dog from the headlock. The dog runs away. Then the owner does this, squares up to the kangaroo. Like 2 dudes outside of a bar. Arms up, squared up against each other. He throws a jab at the kangaroo's snout. Kangaroo shocked by the jab. And then It's over. He yells for his dog to get away, and then him and his dog leave the scene.
Can I have my Rude Jew Lord Sear moment?
It's in Australia.
Black, white,
it's
or
in
other?
Australia, Jalen.
Can we really do this?
If someone's been punching a kangaroo, we know that they're white. Okay, you don't have to make everything into race.
I'm not making it into
white
race.
people. Okay,
you know what?
It's kangaroos involved. It's white people.
You
okay?
know what? We'd be making it in a race if the person was black.
Okay, can we just not right with this topic? Can we just talk about kangaroos?
I just said black, white, or other, and I was guessing.
Okay. I don't want to move on. You just made me sad. Can we just have a topic of fun conversations about animals?
That
you know what I mean?
was
Can we just
fun.
talk about kangaroos and dogs?
That was fun.
You know, before we got about, oh, is it a black guy or a white guy? No, if it was a black guy, we'd be saying this.
We've
Like,
had
come
this
on,
conversation.
man.
Amityville Horror House. You
I
hear a
know,
sound
I know.
downstairs.
Yeah, you
I
can
hear
make
a
anything into a
sound
race
downstairs.
conversation.
No, I'm just saying. When we both hear the sound, I want to run out of the front door and never come back. You want to get the flashlight and investigate.
Okay. Okay. Whatever. Mr. Perfect wants to know, if you could star in any movie, what would it be?
If I could star in any movie, it would be sports related. I would, instead of Sylvester Stallone, I would be Rocky.
I cannot wait until they Photoshop that. I think, you know what? Yeah, that wouldn't work. Because you wouldn't train that hard. You'd be complaining the whole time.
Rocky didn't train either.
What do you mean Rocky didn't train? Rocky trained.
Adrian, you're going to get killed.
Not Rocky trained.
You see how Mr. T and Drago was built
training
versus Rocky?
montage? Explain the plot to Rocky.
Even I could do that.
Okay. Don't then. This is a great question from Neil. This is brilliant. I love this.
Not good
Does
for me.
Austin Rivers call Doc dad or coach?
Coach.
Great question, though.
Coach.
Great question.
Coach.
Great question.
Here's why.
He's called him dad
Here-
for his
no,
entire life.
No.
The entire life. You
No.
think he gets taken out of the game? Dad! Dad!
The moment he says dad is the moment that everybody else like, oh, really gonna put his son in front of me? Like, really? Oh, that's what's going down here? Ask Lance about that.
Do you think they didn't say that every time he goes in the game? They didn't say that when he signs a contract?
No, because he has a distinct role. The one thing that Austin, I give him credit for,